Good evening, Mayor Ortega, council members. Name is Bob Pejman, address is on the record. And, I could have gotten 400 signatures too from very prominent property owners. But this is not a matter of influencing or lobbying the council. That part is done. The bond was passed, and now the city council has to basically get the job done. Let's go back to 2019. In 2019, the city went to the voters and said, and this is in writing, certain parts of downtown experience parking shortages, especially in peak season and during events, major events. And it listed 3 possible locations. And so those locations were all south of Indian School, because with the exception of Canal Convergence, most of the events, whether it's spring training, Scottsdale art events, or the other events on Civic Center, are basically south of Indian School. So the voters agreed, they voted yes, and the city got their $21 million. 4 years later, the city is now relying on a loophole to try to change the location. And that loophole says that, hey, we can build it in a different area. We have the option. I've called that bait and switch before, and I wasn't going to use that term again, but when I see that $14 million is allocated to the entertainment district location on both options, that's what I call it, because the city created a reasonable expectation for the voters to expect it to be in a certain location. Now they want to change that location. And that doesn't really go over well, gaining the voters' trust. And look, voters shouldn't have to hire attorneys to find loopholes. That much I can tell you. They should look at plain language and make the decision on the plain language. Now I want to go to the northeast quadrant. There is a parking situation over there, but it's by design. Why by design? Because going back 5 decades ago, when the city required the 3 quadrants to form improvement districts to fund their own parking, the Northeast District was exempt from that. They just gave them P3 credits and they didn't require them to build any parking. Fast forward 5 decades, a large hotel just got built with no parking. So where were you guys back then to complain about that? I was complaining about parking all along. And frankly, Councilmember Caputi made fun of me for complaining back then. So fast forward to now, if you read between the lines, the major justification for this parking is redevelopment, because they're arguing that the small parcels can't redevelop without a parking lot. Well, the voters didn't vote yes to subsidize redevelopment. They voted yes to provide parking for peak season and large events. And you guys know where that is. Thank you.
French Thompson, 7148 East Main Street, Scottsdale, Arizona. Hi. Mr. Mayor, councilmen. I've got no problem with the Northeast Quadrant wanting parking added to their area. I have absolutely no problem with that at all. I have a really big problem with the Northeast Quadrant misappropriating funds from the 2019 bond. They brought in a petition. Where was that petition before the bond was presented? I worked with the city council, city staff to get the money for the parking garage put on that bond. I never saw any of those people when all this work was being done. All the people that were working with city staff and all the people that were working with city council were from the south side of Indian School. So I appreciate their petition, but I think they're about 5 years a little bit late trying to take the money that we put a lot of time and effort into getting on the bond. They're not really asking for parking over there to meet their current parking needs, which is what the south side of Indian School is. They're asking for the city to pay for parking so they can redevelop their properties. That's why they want the parking, so that they can redevelop the property. The voters didn't vote to have redevelopment done and provide parking for these people to redevelop their property. So now I have a PowerPoint. So I got this letter that was presented to the city council, and as I was reading it, the first thing I said, there's a whole lot of untrue statements in this. You go down about 5 lines there, it says fact, but it's not true. A little bit further down there, it says fact. No data supporting the comment that 600 stadium spots were lost since 2005. I made that presentation. You guys saw that presentation. There's evidence of that. To say that there's none, that's a lie. That's just a blatant lie. So if this is not true, right here, this one comment, and it's saying fact, how can you believe any of the rest of it? The next three statements are not true. So could we go to the next page, please? These aren't true statements either. And then it comes down here where he's talking about the Walker study, the most critical need in there. But the Northeast Quadrant was never listed in the language of the bond. If it was so important, it could have easily been one of the three spaces that were there. So none of this stuff was in the bond. If you take the money and put it up there, I don't think any citizen is going to trust the city for any future bonds. I really don't. I wouldn't trust the city in any future bonds. I wouldn't vote for it. I can't even believe this is coming up. So thank you for your time.
Good evening, Mayor Ortega, Vice Mayor Whitehead, don't even know you, and council members. My name is Sonnie Kirtley. I'm here representing the members and the board for COGS, Coalition of Greater Scottsdale. Today, land uses in both the Northeast Quadrant and the original Old Town have changed. About the Northeast Quadrant, I served on the 2001 Downtown Task Force as chairman of the parking subcommittee. That was 8 years after the Galleria Mall closed in 1993. Because the Galleria use became more intense, then the task force included the request for a northeast parking lot to provide relief from the impact of the call center employees who were using the public parking places. The call center in the Galleria is gone. Less intensive uses are occupying the space. The service and office businesses in the Northeast Quadrant are brief in and out type of patrons. The uses are salons, office services, and small retail. Only the employees need the long hour parkings. Today, the bar district patrons are more dependent on Uber, Lyft, and other shared rides. That area's critical problem is not parking at night, but the lack of a safe place for drop-off and pickup. Today, the land uses in the original Old Town, south of Indian School, have and will continue changing dramatically in land use. The city's multi-million-dollar investment in the Civic Center renovation resulted in plans to increase up to 85 events, just like we saw today at the beginning of the meeting. Multiple parking hours are required for each daytime and nighttime event person. You come to all of those events, and here they are. Can you squeeze that down a bit? Thank you. On the left side, original Old Town events, and these aren't even all of them. You can't even see the bottom part. Squeeze it some more, please. On the right side is the Northeast Quadrant. I did put the canal convergence in there because you get some people from that cross over Scottsdale Road. So the conclusion is Scottsdale needs to build for peak season, just like the staff report says. Focus on where the tourists and the visitors go within our city. So COGS strongly, our members by survey strongly support using the 2019 bond funds for adding 2 levels to the existing garage where the farmers market is held. We also support finding sources for the Northeast Quadrant, whether through them forming a special improvement district like the others have done, or the city manager can locate money. Thank you.